WWE wrestlers who hated Vince McMahon. Wrestling is more than just scripted matches. It's a world where real-life conflicts can impact careers and change everything. We've all seen heated feuds, but some rivalries are unforgettable because of how far they went, especially when it comes to Vince McMahon. Many people love to hate Vince for a number of reasons, particularly because of how he sometimes takes down wrestlers, whether they're new to the business or established stars. Vince, the most powerful man in the industry, has the ability to knock someone down a few pegs without warning. It's frustrating for fans to watch as a wrestler's career gets derailed for no apparent reason, especially when that wrestler has put in the work and shown respect for the business. When it happens, it's often hard to understand why. But one thing's clear, it's usually Vince who's behind it. Over the years, many people who worked with Vince McMahon have openly criticized his moral values, and some have even physically confronted him out of pure hatred. From some of the biggest stars in wrestling history to others who had a major impact, there's no shortage of wrestlers who have had serious issues with McMahon. Let's take a look at some of the names who truly despise him. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of the latest updates. Your subscription helps us continue creating quality content for you. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section after viewing this video. Let's get started. The first name on our list is CM Punk. The relationship between CM Punk and Vince McMahon has been tumultuous. Initially, Punk struggled in WWE, remaining in the mid to upper card until his groundbreaking pipe bomb promo in June 2011. This marked the beginning of their rivalry, both on-screen and behind the scenes. Punk revealed he gave Vince McMahon a fake outline of the promo, then delivered his real message, criticizing WWE management. After winning the WWE Championship at Money in the Bank 2011, Punk walked out of WWE, defying McMahon's attempts to retrieve the title. He also accused Vince and Triple H of sabotaging his momentum by having him lose at Night of Champions in 2011. In January 2014, Punk left WWE after heated arguments with McMahon and Triple H about creative dissatisfaction and his physical condition. To add insult, Punk was officially fired on his wedding day to AJ Lee. Punk labeled the firing as deliberate and expressed that it destroyed any chance of a working relationship with McMahon. Vince McMahon later publicly apologized for the mishandling of Punk's firing, calling it a coincidence and admitting it was poorly managed. Despite the history of animosity, CM Punk returned to WWE at Survivor Series, signing a new deal, though reportedly with no involvement from McMahon. Their professional and personal relationship remains contentious, with Punk maintaining his disapproval of Vince McMahon. Jon Moxley. Moxley, once known as Dean Ambrose in WWE, is now almost unrecognizable, having transformed into one of the biggest stars in wrestling. Given how his final year in WWE ended, it's probably a persona he'd rather leave behind. Moxley's early clashes with Vince McMahon were typical of what many wrestlers experience, as he butted heads with creative decisions. But the breaking point came after Moxley turned heel on his Shield stablemate, Seth Rollins, on the same night Roman Reigns announced he was stepping away from wrestling to fight leukemia. McMahon, trying to get heat on Moxley, wanted to reference Reigns' cancer in a storyline. Moxley found the idea so offensive that he said he wouldn't have felt comfortable saying it in public, let alone as part of a TV script when one of his real-life best friends was battling a life-threatening illness. To this day, Moxley hasn't revealed exactly what the line was, but he was so upset that he was ready to leave WWE immediately if McMahon pushed him to say it. Since leaving WWE, Moxley has been open about how he thinks McMahon's way of thinking was out of touch. He said that WWE's biggest problem was McMahon, and if he had been gone, things might have been different between him and the company. After his departure, Moxley has no regrets and hasn't looked back. Nails. Some men will call each other out on social media, others will do it face to face. But Kevin Nails Watchols took it to a whole new level when it came to Vince McMahon. In fact, he didn't just call him out. He knocked McMahon out and left him on the floor in a position that looked like a starfish. That's the kind of intense hatred Nails had for McMahon. Nail's release from WWE came in 1992 after a serious confrontation with McMahon over pay. According to reports from Bret Hart and Bruce Pritchard, Nails barged into McMahon's office and cornered him, yelling at him for 15 minutes straight. The situation escalated when Nails knocked McMahon out of his chair and actually strangled him. WWE officials had to step in and separate them, and by the end of the day, Nails was no longer part of the company. The drama didn't stop there. Nails filed several legal battles against WWE, including a wrongful termination lawsuit. In this case, Nails accused McMahon of attempting to sexually assault him, which led to their infamous altercation. But perhaps the most significant part of the story is when Nails accused McMahon of pressuring him to take steroids, which made him a key witness in the 1994 steroid trial. During the trial, WWE's lawyer, Laura Bravetti, cross-examined Nails. She asked him if he had any personal animosity toward McMahon, and he said no. But when she asked if he hated McMahon, Nails responded with a simple yes. This moment actually worked in McMahon's favor, as it played a part in him being found not guilty. Years later, Nails claimed he was forced to testify at the trial. Though he was paid for his testimony, he told the Department of Justice that he wanted nothing more to do with McMahon, and even told them to get lost. Goldberg. Burnt bridges can sometimes be repaired with enough time and effort, but in the case of Bill Goldberg and Vince McMahon, their relationship has collapsed more times than anyone can count. It's like trying to rebuild a bridge made of cocktail sticks and industrial tape. Goldberg first left WWE in 2004 after growing disillusioned with the business. His one-year contract expired around WrestleMania 20, and he chose not to renew it. Years later, when asked about McMahon, Goldberg didn't hold back his thoughts. He didn't mince words, calling McMahon like working for a carny driven only by his ego, and adding, business is out of the window, especially when it came to how McMahon handled Goldberg's character. Things seemed to change in 2016 when Goldberg made his return to WWE. That year marked the most decorated period of his career with the company. He won the WWE Universal Championship twice, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and even got the chance to redo his feud with Brock Lesnar that had ended poorly in 2004. By 2020, Goldberg admitted he would die for McMahon and recognized that his expectations during his first run with WWE had been unrealistic. However, just when it seemed like the two had truly patched things up, Goldberg's second contract with WWE expired. He claimed McMahon had promised him a retirement match. But after some tension, Goldberg expressed frustration with his former boss. Despite this, Goldberg later said he was thankful McMahon gave him the chance to have his son watch him wrestle live before he retired. Jeff Jarrett. Many people believe that the creation of TNA can be traced back to the bitter rivalry between Jeff Jarrett and Vince McMahon. After McMahon bought WCW, Jarrett found himself without a major platform to wrestle on. He was well aware that McMahon would never work with him again, so he decided to start his own company instead. Although TNA hasn't yet put WWE in real danger, it's undeniably McMahon's biggest competitor. The most intense exchange between McMahon and Jarrett happened in 1999, when Jarrett used a clever move to blackmail McMahon into paying him a significant amount of money. At the time, Jarrett was WWE's Intercontinental Champion, but his contract was about to expire. McMahon wanted Jarrett to drop the title to China at the No Mercy pay-per-view, but since Jarrett's contract was up just a day before the event, McMahon had no choice but to agree to Jarrett's demands. From that moment on, the relationship between the two soured, and they've never been able to do business together again. Ryback. Nearly a decade after Goldberg left WWE, the company tried to create another larger-than-life character with Ryback. But things didn't go as planned. Ryback debuted in 2012, having spent time in WWE's developmental system as Skip Sheffield. By the time he became Ryback, he had figured out who he was, and who he didn't like, Vince McMahon. Since leaving WWE in 2016, Ryback hasn't held back in criticizing McMahon and the company. One of the most shocking moments came during a Q&A session on X, formerly Twitter, when Ryback claimed that the world would be a better place when McMahon died. While McMahon is still alive as of now, Ryback's comments have made headlines in a more controversial way. In 2002, Ryback made an infamous remark about McMahon's late mother, calling her a whore, while attacking McMahon himself. He later apologized for the remark, blaming WWE for delaying a legal battle over his trademarks. But the damage had been done. His harsh words about McMahon and his family ensured that Ryback remained a controversial figure in wrestling. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an exciting update. Stay tuned for more awesome content. Paul London. Paul London made his mark in the early 2000s, a time when promotions like Ring of Honor were giving rise to some of the best wrestlers of all time. Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and AJ Styles, to name a few. But what set London apart was that in 2003, WWE quickly scooped him up. And that's when he met Vince McMahon, the man who would become the focus of his anger. Over time, London's biggest issue with McMahon became more public, especially after Janelle Grant's sex trafficking lawsuit against McMahon and WWE. The controversy stemmed from an incident during a WWE tour of Kuwait for U.S. troops, where Ashley Massaro, a WWE manager who worked with London and Brian Kendrick, was allegedly raped. According to London, WWE officials, including McMahon, told Massaro to keep quiet about the incident, fearing it would damage the company's reputation and ruin its relationship with the military. London also recalled disturbing instances where McMahon and former WWE producer Kevin Dunn allegedly harassed Massaro, pressuring her to fly on the company jet with them and even banging on her hotel room door at odd hours. Given everything that has come to light about McMahon over the years, London isn't surprised by the accusations, and he's been outspoken about the people who protected McMahon through it all. Eric Young. Eric Young's wrestling career has mostly been shaped by his time in TNA, where he won nearly every championship in the company, including the Knockouts Tag Team title, the Beer Drinking Championship, and the Turkey Bowl. Though some of these titles might sound unusual, they helped Young carve out a respected Hall of Fame career in TNA. However, it was the way he left WWE in 2023 that really earned him the admiration of fans. Young first left TNA to join WWE in 2016, where he became part of the Sanity stable on NXT. After 2 years of working under Triple H, the group moved to the main roster. But when Vince McMahon got involved, he didn't understand the group's appeal and broke them up in 2019. Young didn't hold back and told McMahon directly that he had failed as a leader for not knowing how to use him properly. After being released from WWE in 2020, Young was brought back in 2022, shortly after McMahon's initial retirement following some very public scandals. However, when McMahon returned to the company less than a year later, Young didn't want to be part of it anymore. He requested his release, citing that he couldn't work under McMahon, as it went against his personal values. In 2024, Young revealed that WWE had made him sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, after his release, though he couldn't discuss the reasons behind it due to legal constraints. For Young, the decision to leave was clear. He simply couldn't work for McMahon anymore. Bret Hart. In 1996, Bret Hart signed a huge 20-year contract with WWE, but it turned out to be a mistake for both him and the company. By 1997, McMahon could no longer afford to pay Hart the big salary, while Bret himself grew frustrated and unhappy with being stuck in the shadow of Shawn Michaels. After a lot of tension, both sides agreed that it was time for Hart to leave WWE and sign a new deal with their competitor, WCW. Bret's last match in WWE was one of the most controversial moments in wrestling history. In a match for the WWE Championship, Hart was denied a win in a way that left everyone talking. Vince McMahon, who was the chairman at the time, ordered the referee to stop the match early and hand the victory to Shawn Michaels, even though Hart hadn't actually submitted. It was a clear betrayal in Bret's eyes. Hart, furious with McMahon's actions, didn't hold back. Right there in the ring, he spat in Vince's face in front of the audience. But his anger didn't stop there. Later that night, backstage, a still enraged Bret punches Vince, knocking him to the ground. It was a moment that would go down in wrestling lore. The incident at Survivor Series 1997 has been discussed endlessly over the years. The famous question, who screwed who, still hangs in the air, and whether you side with Bret or Vince, it remains one of the most talked about events in wrestling history. Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino's success in wrestling is something few will ever match. Even though WWE has tried to rewrite history over the years, Sammartino still holds the record for the longest reign and the most days as WWE Champion. However, Sammartino's prime came during a time when wrestling wasn't yet mainstream or considered cool. By the 1980s, Vince McMahon had turned WWE into a global powerhouse, but Sammartino wasn't happy with the direction the company was heading. He didn't like how McMahon seemed to prioritize spectacle over the athleticism that Sammartino valued so much. This became even clearer with the creation of WrestleMania in 1985, which featured a non-wrestler, Mr. T, in the main event. Sammartino was also outspoken against steroids in wrestling, something that would come back to haunt McMahon in court years later when he was accused of being involved in a steroid distribution ring alongside WWE's doctors. Sammartino used his platform on various talk shows after leaving WWE to criticize the company's drug testing, calling it a joke and labeling the wrestlers as druggies. In the years that followed, Sammartino revealed that he stopped watching wrestling altogether. However, the introduction of WWE's strict wellness policy played a big role in his decision to accept a Hall of Fame induction in 2013. By then, he had made peace with McMahon, and Sammartino passed away in 2018, having buried the hatchet years earlier. Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas had a deep dislike for Vince McMahon. Despite being a top star in ECW, he was never pushed in WWE the way he deserved, which likely contributed to his frustration with McMahon. Douglas clashed with Vince due to a lack of mutual respect. While he respected McMahon for his achievements, he felt that McMahon didn't respect others, believing that since he paid people, they should kiss his ass. Douglas, on the other hand, came from a background where he worked hard and expected the same respect in return, something he felt was never reciprocated by McMahon. Additionally, McMahon's dismissive comments about ECW, referring to it as a minor league or blood and guts company, further frustrated Douglas, as he felt McMahon didn't understand the value of ECW and was intentionally belittling his past. He admitted to not finding Vince McMahon's leadership as good as he thought, and the fact that he didn't enjoy the manner in which McMahon ran the company showed that he didn't get along with his boss at the time. So, there you have it, some of the most intense WWE rivalries, all sparked by personal issues with Vince McMahon. From heated confrontations in his office to battles over creative control, these wrestlers showed us that the backstage world isn't always as glamorous as it seems. It's a reminder of just how personal things can get in the business, with egos, pride, and frustration often leading to huge blow-ups. But here's the thing, these wrestlers didn't walk away just because of business. They left because they felt disrespected, misunderstood, or even mistreated. Their stories really highlight the tough realities of an industry where money and power often take priority over everything else. What do you think about these rivalries? Do you believe the tension between Vince McMahon and these wrestlers was justified, or do you think there's more to the story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes looks at the drama and history of pro wrestling. Your support encourages us to create interesting and amazing content for you. Keep exploring, and we'll see you in the next one.